for right now, and for all of the literally people watching this. We do thank you for doing so right now. And let me turn off the sound on my stream here. So we're going to be doing Dragons of Light, DragonLance DL7, the first edition module. But for those of you who are tuning in and watching this, and we'll kind of get over this here in just a second, but those of you who are tuning in and watching this, this campaign has actually been ongoing for quite some time. This is session 69, technically, but we've been running lots of different other stuff, and we're going to run this actual published module and just stream this module alone. So we'll start off by having Howard, aka Addie Pennington, give a brief recap of what has led up to the moment that will start DL7, Dragons of Light. Go ahead, take it away, Howard.
When the Redemption arrived in Halterwood, they discovered hundreds of Qualinesti refugees desperate to flee the devastation wrought by the dragon armies. After conferring with Zestaria Vana Genfira, the daughter of the Second Star, niece to the Speaker of the Sun, and more importantly, Malachite's mother, our party decided to take as many refugees as we could safely ferry with us to the safe haven established in Thunder Bay. A week on the high seas brought a spirited juggling competition to raise morale, a brief scouting mission that revealed a great red dragon lording over the ashes of what was once Halterwood just days after our departure, and an attack by 2 great white sharks that left 6 refugees dead. Hearts heavy with the dark tidings we bring, the redemption will arrive at Qualamori.
That was the shortest recap that Howard has ever given. Well done. Yeah, so we are going to skip a little bit ahead to get to kind of the meat of the action. But before we do that, why don't we go ahead and everybody can kind of introduce your characters and give descriptions of who we're looking at here. And I might as well start with you, Howard, since you were just talking.
Hey, I'm Howard. My pronouns are he, him. And I am playing Adriana Pennington, daughter of Arcturus Pennington, keeper of the lands of Penlarkel. She is 5'11". She's a 17-year-old human Solamnic Knight. She just became an Elder of Swords, part of the Knights of the Sword. And she's got perpetual helmet hair of a regular brown. Her right eye is brown. Her left eye is blue, and the blue in her left eye has taken on more of an icy color after events that happened in the past. She wears a set of scale armor. No, Tyler plate mail with the symbols of the 3 Solamnic orders, and a very large greatsword sheathed in a makeshift sheath on her back. Later on, we might or might not get to meet Cedric, her warhorse, who is very sweet. He is a chestnut with a big stripe on his nose, and he's very smart. So, yeah, that's it.
I love Cedric. How about Melinora?
Alrighty then. I am Amanda, she, her. I play Melinora Brightgleam, a Silvanesti elf, wizard of the red-robed order of the Tower of High Sorcery. And while she would never lower herself to actually say it, it should be evident to all that she is better than you and everyone else. She flies around on a broom and typically wants nothing to do with the lesser races, except that, well, she's got these adventuring companions, and she'd never admit it, but she kind of likes them.
All right, how about Malachite?
Well, I'm Brian, and my character is Malachite, son of Stonebeard, and he is a half-elf, and carries a magical axe that he can fling and throw about 150 feet and come back to him. And let's see here, he worships Habakkuk, and basically wants to be in the woods all of the time. And if he's not in the woods, not terribly happy. Unless he's captain of a ship, then he's also happy.
He also does hold the title of Captain Malachite of the Redemption. And then finally, last, smallest, but perhaps not least, Tick Tick.
Certainly not least. Tick Tick Bramblebing is a Kender. He is stout. He adores food and lively conversation and his friends. And he's very good at cleaning up his own messes, of which there are plenty. Yeah.
What's he look like?
Well, I mean, other than stout, he has black hair that's short that kind of blends into some mutton chops. He's usually dressed in fairly bright colors because, Kender, and also, look at me, I'm amazing. And since he is a bard, but he is a jongleur, so he likes to juggle and tumble and be a performer rather than any kind of singer. Not the best storyteller because he gets too excited telling the tales, but he will always happily distract you with some sort of tasty snack that he has on him, especially in the bag of holding, of which he always seems to have a feast of some kind.
And he is also known to wield a wicked bowling ball in combat on occasion.
Yes, there is a bowling ball that has done some amazing things.
A bag of raisins, right? Friends.
Yep,
raisins?
the
Friendship
bag
raisins.
of friendship raisins. And having befriended a hill giant, I don't think he's afraid to try to befriend anybody, even if it's not for his own good or is not a smart idea. He might still do it or attempt to.
Very good. So the four of you, or I should say really you and all of your mounts, because we've got Aloysius and Balthazar traveling along with Melinora. We have, of course, Addie's incredible steed, Cedric, probably leading the way, Trigger, upon which Malachite rides, and then finally the massive draft horse that the smallest member of the group rides upon, Tick Tick, riding upon Zatol, a mount belonging to a former companion who died in the swamps.
Because all of Tick Tick's other mounts die, and thankfully Doggo, his little dachshund companion, hasn't yet, so...
Jasmine is not dead, I'm just going to say. And that's right, she does carry around a wiener dog named Doggo. Tick Tick also does as well. So the group of the four of you are traveling into the into Qualimori, mounted on horseback, and I will read this box text. As we are doing the old school adventures, they have the box text. So, your entry into Qualimori, capital of the Qualinesti elves in exile, is that of conquering heroes. A multitude of elves tosses flowers in your path and shouts cheers in your name. You are ushered with great ceremony into a large dome structure. Along the far wall is a dais of earth lit by torches. Seated on a throne upon the dais is Solastarin, speaker of the suns and ruler of Qualinesti. He looks very worn, much older than his years. To one side is his eldest son, Porthios. To the other, a dwarf who you recognize, only he bears a silver arm. Scamus, your former companion, who you presume dead in the swamps during your quest through Castle Amber. Solastaran rises slowly from his chair, staggered by age and great responsibility. You are most welcome, he says, to our place of exile. Think of Qualimori as your home. Let us feast in your honor. And there is a large, sort of, well, I would say a muted, but highly participatory cheer in your honor as tables are laid out and food is brought all around. And you're ushered into the central area. Solastaran himself is sitting at the head, and Porthios to his directly to his side. Solastaran, and I will share images, but I'll describe them for those who are listening, because we're doing this mostly as a theater of the mind situation. But Solastaran is he's elven, so he has a bit of an ageless quality, but he has sort of silvery blonde hair that cascades down his shoulders in sort of a light curl, and he has a very stern look upon his face, deep lines like underneath his eyes and underneath his chin bones. Again, very severe eyes, long fingers. He has sort of a it almost looks like, in a way, like shaped like a breastplate, but it's in gold, and it's actually woven fibers. It kind of appears as that, and then white robes below that. His son Porthios, who sits to one side, appears much different. He wears the clothes of a woodsman, a green cloak with a golden clasp, the symbol of the Cannon family, of which he is a part of, Solastaran as well. He wears mostly greens and golds. He has the same hair color that his father, Solastaran, has, only his hair falls straight. And he wears sort of a, I guess you might call it a crown, although it's more like a chain of beads and gems that kind of encircle his forehead, that denote his status as eventual successor to Solastaran. Even while he's sitting down, several Qualinesti elves are sort of coming to him and asking. He's giving orders. He seems the one to be like truly in charge of the Elven people here in terms of how they're operating in southern Ergoth. And then finally, the last member of the family, whose name you're not particularly familiar with, is but he is sitting at the table as well, is a golden-haired elf. You can see the family resemblance to Solastaran and Porthios, but otherwise he looks quite different. He's got a he's wearing elven chainmail and has a blue surcoat, unlike the greens that his father and brother wear. You can actually, as he's kind of sitting, he's still armed. He looks like he's cleaned up, but he's probably been out doing work in the areas around based on his appearance. He looks, his hair is just like slightly disheveled, and he looks like he's been, busy doing things. Amongst the actually, let's go ahead and everybody go ahead and make a charisma-based perception check. And for those listening at home, I have a little bit of a house rule where I combine wisdom and a secondary stat to come up with perception checks based on whatever the circumstances call for. So this is kind of a social and cultural perception based check. Go ahead and make a charisma based perception check.
You want low or high?
Low.
Low, that's what I was afraid of.
It's been a while since we played second ed.
Yep.
Yeah.
It made an 8, so
Good enough.
Good to go.
Yeah.
I got a 9 out of 13.
Oh, that's good. Oh, Melinora is the one who probably should notice, is the one who does not notice.
They're
How
only
about Tick Tick?
Qualinesti.
12 out of 13.
Okay, so Malachite, Addie, and Tick Tick, the three of you notice that those who are being seated at the table and all those who are bearing weapons, there's a lot of guards. First of all, there are a lot of guards around, keeping watch all around the outer edge. I mean, technically they should be subtle. You would say that they're like kind of alcoves hidden around in the corners and such, but there seems to be a bit of a tension with the ragtag group of it. I mean, really well-groomed and nice-looking group of adventurers that just entered the dome of the in Qualinori here, the seat of power for the Qualinesti in exile. But they definitely seem on edge. The guests and the guards all seem to be of one type of elf, but there is another type of elf who seem to be bringing out the food and acting as sort of servants at the gathering. You notice their difference because, first of all, they are a bit shorter. And remember, according to Margaret Weiss, the foremost authority on Dragonlance in my mind, Dragonlance elves are actually very tall, like Lord of the Rings elves. So normal elves are like taller than humans in general. These elves are a little bit shorter. They're more like human size, more muscular, definitely tanned. And most of all, you notice that they have some tribal tattooing as well. That's like emerging from like under sleeves or maybe peeking up underneath a collar here and there. And after a bit more ceremony, you're all shown to seats, and Solastarin gives you a nod, and then and sort of smiles at you, and you're essentially presented to him. Kind of brought to him before you take your seats. And he says, "You have brought back many refugees, reunited many families that we weren't sure we would ever see again. And for that, the Qualinesti elves are eternally grateful. And I, on a personal level, am grateful for what you have done." Obviously, your horses, you were taken down from your horses, they were stabled and all that stuff outside of the dome. I can see that you are weary from your journey, given your lack of speaking into the microphones that you have in front of your faces.
I look to Malachite, since this is his problem.
You look to the bearded half-elf. You certainly couldn't possibly be a problem.
Malachite looks around the room, only seeing that roughly they're about the same height, as he is roughly human height as well. But that seems to be as much as they have in common, because he looks more human than elf. But, or dresses that way anyway.
Yeah, Melinora, I would say, though, even though you failed your check, of course, but you would notice, of course, that this is this is this is the home of the elves in exile. So the Qualinesti elves in exile. So this dome is pretty remarkable in its construction, but it's like it pales in comparison to even the meager Qualinesti architecture that you've studied in your books in the past, and it would barely be passable as an outhouse for a Silvanesti building.
I give Malachite another look, and when he doesn't pipe up, I just kind of sigh. Give my very best bow. We're honored by your reception, and will strive to cause as little strain as possible on an already stressful time.
Tick Tick looks up at that and shakes his head because he knows that if we're in town, things are going to go sideways.
Hey, nothing's on fire yet.
Yet.
It's been a while since we've played, but that's probably a certainty. So the Solastarin bows his head and gives you a smile that betrays none of the likely internal issue he has with the figures standing before him. And several of his, I guess what you might call honor guard, make it clear that it's time for you to take your seats. And the feasting sort of begins. You're not really given much opportunity to move about or anything. Most notably, Scamus being there might draw some interest from you. But there is, food is being brought out, and everything kind of like snowballs and begins to kind of like take control of, the proceedings. We're just like when you're about to get up, or you try to step away or try to get Scamus's attention, like something else seems to happen that kind of gets in the way of that. But the food that's brought out is really good. It's vegetarian. The Qualinesti elves are vegetarian, and there is but it is really quite good. Very healthy, very nutritious, and reviving for those of you who care to partake.
Care to partake? I mean, there's no option though.
Well, after like saltfish and stuff like that.
Tick Tick will miss his fats though. But of course he's a good companion, so with every bite he certainly oh yes, this is just the best I've ever had. And all of a sudden a biscuit appears in his hand that you have no idea where it came from, and he just kind of shovels that in his face hole too, but raises up something else like, yes, this is fantastic.
Malachite doesn't mind eating greens, so sits down, starts filling his plate.
Melinora accepts what she's given with grace.
Is there music
Addie
playing? Like where we are in the feast hall, is there music playing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What's Addie doing?
Yeah, I'm curious.
Addie is she there is no there's sorry, brain fart. Basically, she's happily shoveling the food. I mean, she does remember her table manners, but she is eating much more quickly than she usually does. And unfortunately, due to the curse, she's about to try to serve herself seconds, and then she stops. And yeah, ever since the curse from when we were in Castle Amber, you've noticed that she's been needing twice as much food in order to feel satisfied, and she deliberately stops herself because she is not aware of how much food this refugee nation has at its disposal. So
you hear your stomach growling at the lack of food. For those out there wondering, Addie was cursed in Castle Amber with the need to consume twice as much food to feel satisfied. Very strange curse. All right, so eventually, you're also feasted with a strong alcoholic nectar drawn from the trees nearby. You may take it in as you will. The elves that are in attendance seem to have no problem drinking it. And it's, sweet and strong and very fruity, of course. It comes from a particular type of fruit that grows in this area that's fermented. And eventually, finally, after, stuffing yourselves and being served a lot of alcohol, Scamus is finally able to pull himself away from the elves, which in particular, he seems to be mostly sitting at like Portheos' side. And Portheos is has men coming to him delivering messages, and then he'll turn then to Scamus and confer with him about a number of things. And Scamus has like a small journal or book there that he seems to be making some notations in as he is doing this. Remarkably, with this silver arm, which is seems to be fully functional. Let's see. Just want to make sure it's which side it's on. It is his right arm. He comes over to you. Scamus comes over. He says, "It has been a long time, my friends."
It has. It has. Where have you been traveling?
He says, "It is a long tale, but fortunately, the module has spelled it out for me to tell you." He says, Azkael and I fought these diabolical creatures in the swamps during our travels together in that place that was attached to Castle Amber.
Silair. Addie.
Yes.
Addie has like a 1,000-yard stare.
Yeah. He says, yes. And he says, the light was blinking, was darkening before my eyes. And I fell, as did Azkael. We were no match for those creatures. But in a swirl of dreams and nightmares, I caught a light, sparks flying from Reorx's hammer that reignited my spirit, drew me back to this world, and I found myself awakening in a foreign place, a forested area. And it wasn't long after I picked myself up that I came across elven refugees, many of whom are here in this camp today, who took pity upon me. At the time, I didn't have this, and he sort of flexes his silver-armed hand. He says, Porthios' people were good enough to take me in, feeling that a one-armed warrior and smith could be of some use in their exile. I accompanied the Qualinesti to the edge of the channel where we built boats to cross crude ships that now rot on the beaches. At that time, I was far afield, searching for ore to forge bolts and fasteners. What I found was a ruined place, a temple toppled by cataclysm and overgrown with ivy. Thinking to salvage weapons and armor, I went in. What I found was a silver arm, and he once again reaches it up. It was in a small alcove, bare, as if it was a shrine. I picked it up, thinking it part of a suit of armor, but found it solid. I placed it against the stump of my arm, and it bonded tight. I could move it as if it were my own. It was then that I heard a deathly howl and saw this hell-bent beast with green glowing eyes. I ran, feeling it hot behind me, and did not stop until I reached the beach. Porthios was amazed at my discovery, more so because it could not be removed. We searched for the temple briefly, but found nothing. Then we sailed, landing here 7 days later in leaky ships. Says, we found the Silvanesti here already. Much like you, Melinora, haughty and proud elves who seemed a little too cool for my tastes. Still, they allow me to walk through their lands as well, as do the wild ones, the Kagonesti, which you see here, and he whispers lowly, the servants, and he kind of looks unhappy at that prospect. This arm has been an aid. It is as natural as my own, and I can hammer from dawn till dusk without resting. It seems to know what I need to make. And then he leans and he says, but there is one thing that bothers me, though. I have been making a lot of weapons. I'm afraid that the elves aren't getting along too well, and it will soon be coming to a head. And he looks around. You see, and everybody make another perception check. This one be a strength-based perception check.
Okay.
15 of 17.
8 again.
That one I inexplicably made with a 7 of 9.
What are the combos for that again? It's strength and dexterity or strength and wisdom?
Yep.
Strength and wisdom.
And then, yeah, roll underneath.
Yeah, I got it. 9 out of
Something high.
22.
Well, you'd have to have it, so it'd be 9 out of 11. All right, so I think everybody is able to notice that, yes, in fact, there are now, Melinora, you now notice that there are wild elves, Kagonesti elves, as he says that. But you also do notice that the elves, the warriors that are all around, seem to be watchful and on edge, I guess I would say. And you also notice as a group that like the exits are being blocked and guards are certainly being positioned to ensure that you can't get near Solastarin, or really even Porthios. And even Scamus being nearby, you can see that there's like a couple of guards like nearby that are very clearly watching you, you know, like hands on hilts, like ready to jump in at a moment's notice should you accost Scamus in any way.
Are they watching the group of us, or some of us more than others?
Well, the group of you are all kind of together.
Tick Tick will start pounding his hand on the tabletop and throwing his tankard of ale into the air and start just very badly singing along to the music that's playing with words that just make no sense. And because he's smaller than everyone around him, he goes on ahead and hops up on his chair, to ensure that he definitely has eyes on him. And he starts trying to raise to the mood, and he looks over at someone and motions for them to stand up and cheer as well, and he raises his tankard to everyone in the room. Hey, to good days ahead, and just starts kind of stomping around a little bit on his chair, doing what Tick Tick does.
All right, let's see here, because I believe you have the ability to influence reactions to some extent. Let's see here. When performing before a group that is not attacking and not intending to attack in just seconds, the bard can try to alter the mood of the listeners. The method can be whatever is most suitable to the situation at the moment. A fiery speech, collection of jokes, a sad tale, a fine tune played on a fiddle, a haunting lute melody, or a heroic song from the homeland. Saving throw versus paralyzation. -1 for every 3 levels. What level bard? You have to be level 9 at least. Melinora, are you 10?
I'm 10.
Then Tick Tick is definitely at least 9. You're probably not 12
I'm
though.
10.
Okay, you're probably higher than 10. We just got
I
to...
might be,
I'm sure.
but I updated this 10. I wrote down all the XP. I just haven't opened the book to see where I am. So at least 10. I'm 10.
Okay. I'll do one group save for the guards, and then I'll do one each for Solastarin and Porthios. That's an inauspicious start for my rolling, but I guess it's an auspicious start for you. Everybody seems to relax a little bit when Tick Tick says that. And you hear a few, murmured like huzzah and things like that, but in the elven version of huzzah. And the group, you can see that kind of people it's not so much that they take a step back or anything like that, but they kind of you could see bodies relax, tension dissolve a little bit. And Porthios finally, Solastarin and Porthios seem to make eye contact and seem to have an unspoken, communication between the two of them. Porthios gets up and stands up and moves over towards you.
At this point, Tick Tick is now balancing on one foot on the top of the chair with his tankard.
Does Scamus have a drink in hand?
Yes.
Okay.
He does.
Malachite goes over to cheers with him, just to kind of visually show anybody who's watching that they're
We're friends.
Yeah, they're friends. To kind of just he's doing it a little extra for show, but just to kind of we know each other in a sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Melinora slightly raises a glass, doesn't actually drink. She, no. Drunken wizards and lesser elves don't, no. No. No.
So Porthios comes over, and he is the height of Qualinesti elven royalty in the way that he moves over towards you. His movements are the picture of grace, but grace with aptitude, in the sense that you could imagine him springing into action at any moment. He moves over to you and he says, "Forgive me for not introducing myself earlier. I am Portheos Canon, heir to the throne of Qualinesti, first son of Solastara and Speaker of the Sun. On behalf of my father, allow me to formally introduce you to Qualamori, and once again, thank you for your service to our people. May I?" And he points to an open seat nearby you.
Melinora gestures him to it.
Tick Tick realizes he probably shouldn't be acting the drunkard, so he hops down into his chair.
As if it's like some sort of perfect timing, some baked dessert, fruity dessert goods are brought out at that moment, so it entices Tick Tick to sit down.
Malachite takes a seat, being polite and trying not to stand out.
Addie is going with the rest of the team. Does open, welcoming demeanor. So
he says, "Forgive me for asking. If you may recount the tale of how you came upon the refugees. How did you come to aid us in this time? I've heard the reports, of course, but that is different than hearing it from the mouths of those who did the deed, so to speak."
Melinora looks at Tick Tick and the others and just sort of makes a, "Go ahead."
Malachite says, "I'm no storyteller, but Addie Pennington surely is."
Addie gives Malachite kind of an almost betrayed look, like half startled, half betrayed, and clears her throat. We had been on our way to journeying to Palanthus in order to deliver a communique to the Lord Mayor on behalf of Grand Prince Holy Amber. The Grand Prince had loaned us his ship. We had to disguise it because we were traveling through the territory of an army of Draconians, and it looks like they've started taking over. They were in Carolis, and they started making their way up the coast, a little bit north of No Star, and then we stopped in Halterwood in order to resupply, get news, see if they had been also taken over as well, and that's when we discovered the refugees from Qualinesti. There were so many. We spoke with Zestari of Vanaganfira, who was in charge there, and there had been a ship just leaving dock that was heading northwards towards, I think they were headed towards Ergoth. She pleaded with us. Yeah, she pleaded with us for us to take refugees, and we took as many as we could safely carry without risking disease. And we decided to come this way because on the Zestari's recommendation. And like at this point, Addie starts kind of quickly scanning the room. And then she lowers her voice. 2 days out, we noticed a heat haze coming from Halterwood. Lady Brightgleam and I ended up scouting, and there was a red dragon that was sitting on top of the wreckage of the town. we decided not to tell the refugees because we didn't want to start a panic. But I don't know if there are any survivors.
He nods and sort of there's a bit of sadness that kind of glazes over his eyes, but he says, yes, unfortunately that news had reached us before your arrival, which makes your arrival all the more blessing to the people of Qualinesti, for we had assumed the worst, that none had survived. He says, we hope for further survivors, of course, and we will be requisitioning your ship in order to make a journey back to the devastated township, so that way we might see what we can reclaim in terms of our people.
Pushes his tankard on the table. No, we stole that from a dragon.
Malachite slowly moves his chair back, stands slightly, looks around for his crew. Does he see any of them?
No.
Where are they?
No, your hobgoblin crew?
Yeah,
With the draconian member?
Yeah, no, there's crew that there's very special to us that it's very rude to assume.
Melinora edges a little closer to Malachite in solidarity.
Yes, we've been made aware of. I've been made aware of your crew, and I can promise you that they will be properly cared for.
Hang on a second. They swore themselves to the Lightbringer. They are. I understand that at first blush it appears, they must be evil because of what they are. But who they are is more important, and they have been stalwart, honest, true, and they have been willing to take on the refugees, and we also have didn't we supplement the sailors from refugees who were willing to learn how to sail, Captain? And she directs this question to Malachite. Didn't we supplement? So we have Elven crew members who are working with the original crew. I want to make sure that it's understood that they do not work with us out of fear, but out of mutual respect.
This is true. And Malachite nods over to him. Also says, as captain of the ship, we're willing to work with you on helping you in any ways we are, but we are not going to, as a crew, my whole crew, so we are not going to be relinquishing said ship.
Having
said that, we are more than willing to help you in any way.
That's what they say.
Exactly.
He says, well, first, I will address your concern over your crew members. I can promise you that no harm will come to them. And I will take your concerns over the ship under advisement and be sure to communicate make sure to communicate your desires to my father. He says, alas, I have other important matters to contend with this evening. As you can tell, this is not a circumstance which we would have chosen to find ourselves in. And much must be done on a daily basis to not only ensure our own place here, but to ensure that ultimately we're able to return to our homeland. And he gives you a deep bow. He says, my thanks again, and the thanks of the Qualinesti people.
Tick waits until he's just out of hearing for what he believes an elf would hear.
Before you say anything, though, Scamus leans in and says, "See what I mean?"
When Tick
stolen?
When Tick starts to speak, I hush him until he's actually out of elven hearing range. Okay, go ahead.
Did they just steal our ship?
They tried.
They really want it.
Now, I should say, because we did fast forward a bit, that you're about a half a day's journey from the ship. That's about how long it took you inland. In fact,
how long on a broom?
Yeah.
If I can't have you, no one can.
That thought did cross Melinora's mind.
Oh, yeah.
So it is, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4.
And as far as she's concerned, it's Malachite's ship.
It's about 10
He
miles.
says goes.
It's about 10 miles to the ship.
Tick is very protective of Imtash, the Draconian. He's working really hard and trying to gain his friendship. A lot of food has been put into that mouth.
I think perhaps it might be a good idea to withdraw and discuss our options quietly amongst ourselves.
It seems like things are settling in anyway. Like the Porthios coming to speak with you was kind of like nearing the end. It was like everybody, they fed you a lot of food and fed you a lot of drink and then came in.
Mm-hmm.
And then Porthios came to you.
Yeah.
Several elven guards come up to behind the table, near the table, and Scamus looks around and he shakes his head just barely, and he says, "Well, that's my cue."
Do you have, real quietly, do you have freedom of movement? It would seem not quite.
We'll discuss things further soon. And he gets up and he looks at one of the elven guards, and they all look very stern. And he just says, "Armentaro, why look so serious, my friends? Come. Let us discuss what needs discussing." And then he gets up and leaves with the guards. And he walks out of the dome? Or is he escorted out? It's kind of like there's a spot somewhere in the middle there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Walk out on your own record or be dragged out kind of thing.
Solastarin, eventually kind of takes his leave, and that is sort of the official kind of end. You notice that the other son, the younger son, who you didn't get introduced to, but learned his name was Gilthanis. He also was like he never came over to talk to you or anything like that. And he's kind of let out in a similar fashion.
Let out like Scamus was let out?
Yeah, it looks like it's an honor guard in a way.
But it isn't.
Are they guarding him? Or are they making sure he doesn't go anywhere?
Have
And
they...
similarly, a group of elven warriors comes over to you four. And one of them says, it's a woman warrior, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, elven warrior woman. She's, tall, strong, looks like, sort of a prototypical elven warrior, Qualinesti warrior, who you've sort of seen around here. And she says, "My name is Ilea, and I will show you to. I have been ordered to show you to your accommodations for while you're in Qualamori. Please." And she points a hand out the entryway. And there are several other guards sort of in a half moon around you, preventing you from going in any direction other than the open end of the half moon.
Tick acts like she is definitely a friendly friend and hands her a biscuit and as best he can pats her back, and he has to kind of jump to do that because height difference. Hello, friends. I am sure you're bringing us somewhere quite comfortable. Did you see my balancing on the chair? It was fantastic, wasn't it? It was great. It's really hard to do that on a ship that keeps swaying back and forth. So I thought tonight was my moment to shine.
Mm-hmm.
And that you did.
That's all he says. That's all she says. Mm-hmm.
Oh, clearly I need to say more things. So yes, I'm sure you heard about our ship, and our ship is pretty fantastic, and we have a great crew. And I was really thinking that I'm kind of attached to
one of
crew.
the guards begins to prod you towards the door.
Addie unconsciously, Addie will also head for the door, but we've traveled together long enough to sort of get an unconscious formation going, where she puts herself between whatever, between the threat and the others. She puts herself between the elves and the open space.
Oh, so we're all headed. Oh, I know what we're doing. We're going outside to campfires to have s'mores, aren't we?
That's a great idea, Tick Tick. Yes,
Yeah.
let's have a campfire.
I know many of you are not familiar with s'mores, but it is this semi-sweet cracker, and you put chocolate on it, and I know we all know chocolate. And then there's this little white, fluffy, sweet air, and it toasts up really nicely. And then you sandwich another cracker on it. And so that's what we're all going to do right now, right? Right? That's it.
Ilea says,
so quiet.
The guard says, "I can assure you that your quarters are equipped with a fire that you might partake in your regional delicacy."
Well, then why does everyone have such a sour face?
I hope you don't mind.
The gathered nobles and such don't have sour faces. They look fine, but the guards are definitely severe.
I just look at the cards too. I hope you don't mind. Wish to pray to Habakkuk and bring my fellows along with me. This is gonna need to be where I'm being at the edge of the forest. And
he says, she says, "Come. I do not think that you'll find a problem. The elves," and she kind of, her mask breaks a little bit as she kind of looks you up and down. "We understand how to merge nature and civilization in a way that will no doubt be adequate for your prayers."
Oh, well, if that's the case, thank you so much.
While Tick-Tick's,
I am
flailing his arms around and pointing at things and laughing, and he kind of looks back at his friends and, is this safe? Are we safe? Are we good?
Oh yeah,
Eleanor,
we're
go ahead.
good. Let's go into the room and enjoy.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so you're let out, and there's no doubt about it that that Qualamori, it is kind of a town city. Like there's a lot of people here, and there's like buildings have been constructed, but they blend in really well with the forest. Like a lot of it is made from found materials and in conjunction with existing trees and bushes and things like that in a way. But you're ultimately led to a circular building with a dome roof that goes up about 20 feet for you to stay in. There's a single entrance that you're kind of led to enter into. Within there are a number of pallets to sleep on. There is an area to build a fire in the center of the room, and there's a hole in the circle, in the top of the circle of the dome, to allow smoke to escape and such. And there is some supplies, food, things like that, blankets, extra things that you might need. But you're led into this spot. Oh, of course. No, you're fine. But you're let in, and Ilea says, I believe this should be adequate for you. No doubt. He says, Portheos, my Lord Portheos has informed me that you have concerns, and he intends on addressing them in the morning. She says, in the meantime, thank you again. And then she kind of points her arm into the room for you to enter in.
I feel like we're all friends here, right? How about a hug? Anyone want a hug?
She says, I'm
Don't
on
leave me
duty.
hanging.
I'm on duty. That would be inappropriate.
Just looking at everybody now, anybody? A hug?
You're kind of ushered in as your arms are up in the air.
Melinora kind of taps the back of Addie's knee so that she pitches forward towards Tick-Tick.
Tick-Tick just looks a little dejected and walks into the room.
Addie nods politely to Ilea. Thank you for the escort. I hope you have a restful evening.
She nods at you. And they close the door. And you can hear a couple of guards take stations out in front of the door.
Which Tick-Tick does not
Which
care
happens
about,
at every
'cause there is
place
a
where you're a
hole.
guest.
Yeah, it's like they've met us before.
Tick-Tick, would you like that hug?
No, it's fine. I can wait.
And
I'll
Tick-Tick,
break them. I know I will.
You wanna make some of those s'mores and put some raisins inside them?
No, I kind of want to go out that hole in the ceiling.
Well, there's that too. Any windows in this room? And
No.
how big is that hole in the
3 feet.
3 foot?
It's a 3 foot wide
diameter?
hole at the peak of the dome.
I-
So,
Tick-Tick can fit.
friends, what are we doing?
I could fit through there, but
I need more calculated minds than my own.
I lean in real close to Tick-Tick and whisper low enough that the elves outside won't hear us. Do you want a sound bubble or shall I? We don't want to be overheard.
Oh, yes. I definitely am not sound bubbling today.
Then I sound bubble.
Such a great spell. I fucking love that spell.
Gods,
Mhm.
yes.
Yay.
Such a good little spell.
Mhm.
It's weird it's a bard spell. It should be like an assassin spell or something.
I know. So strange. Right then.
I should mention this because many people who are not familiar with this game might not know this spell, but it essentially creates a bubble within which everybody that's talking can hear each other, but nobody outside of that bubble can hear outside of the bubble. And it's like a first level bard spell, I believe.
I
Mhm.
learned it from Tick Tick.
It's really handy when you trade books
Yes,
with good spells in them,
indeed.
especially when there's a kindred. Yeah, a kinder. Kinder. Oh my god, I'm so tired. They can cast invisibility. It's fantastic. Yes. What?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good times.
Right then.
Whew.
Well, shall we spend the night and see what they have in the morning, or shall we get out of here and go towards the ship? Or
If-
should we send a scout party to go check out the ship and come back?
If we decide to do it, I can get us all back to the ship within a few seconds.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Hang on. Okay. Obviously, our worth to them is the ship. We've raised concerns. Obviously, they're guarding us, but at the same time, there's 4 of us?
We
Why
also
are they...
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
We also have worth as expendable non-Qualinesti cannon fodder.
But against who? What are they dealing with here? I know that I had that vision of General Jack 42nd of his name fighting some of Atskael's people, but I don't think that's what they're dealing with.
This game has strongly implied that they were on less than good terms with their elven neighbors.
And those people, those they looked like that one. Remember when we were trying to find Arla the Fierce, and that one wizard showed up, and he looked like them. He was shorter, he was muscular, but he was still I got sucked down into the stone, and then and then so Scamus is back.
Which is its own piece of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean that the craftsman brought him back for a purpose? Sorry. I didn't get to apologize. It's stupid, I know, but... Anyway, yeah, the ship, the crew, Yeah. The ship, the crew. We gotta worry about that.
Melinora, this, I imagine, spell that you have that could get us there within few moments to the ship. Well, having said that, since we have that ability, then should we hear them out tomorrow? And if we don't like what they have to say?
That does seem to be the most reasonable solution. My concern, though there's very little to be done about it, is we came 10 miles inland.
Mm-hmm.
If the powers that be here had already decided to requisition your ship, they did it the moment we were out of sight.
Right.
Even if we were to teleport back to the harbor, I wouldn't want to risk teleporting onto the ship itself for fear of the ship having moved. But we may very well find that the Qualinesti are already firmly in possession.
Yeah, it's been about
Even
10 hours, essentially. been about 10 hours, I would say, since you got off the ship. At
Yeah,
this
see,
point.
you say firmly in possession, but we liberated that boat, that ship, from draconiums and a dragon. I mean, I'm just going to
Considering that half of our crew, well, perhaps not quite half, were already Qualinesti elves, I'm reasonably certain that should the Qualinesti have boarded and assumed control, that their Qualinesti sailor counterparts would not have resisted. That many elves could overcome the remaining hobgoblins as well as the draconian, if that's what was intended. It might not be. Who knows?
I need
But it's a thing to consider.
absolute reassurances that our crew is okay.
I just don't like the idea that they might all be hanged.
I somehow doubt that. I strongly suspect that they're being kept prisoner, or at least under very, very close guard. If nothing else, the crew's safety can be used as a lever against us for whatever else they're expecting of us.
Which I still don't like. Don't like it.
Neither do I.
So it's sounding more and more like if we teleport over there tonight on the coast, not on the ship as you suggested, which is brilliant, that may not be the best situation, maybe, to hear out what they have to say in the morning. And
I'm
then go
inclined
to
to accept your idea, yes.
Mhm.
I just wanted us all to understand what we might be dealing with.
Right, because going there tonight, we may not be able to take back the ship anyway, and we wouldn't know what they may need us for or offering. So at least we would have more information, and they probably won't have it any more secure tomorrow than they already do now.
Exactly.
Well, that's a good point.
And besides, if in their opinion, they're going to requisition the ship, they have to have something in mind that they're going to do for us or with us. They're going to send us somewhere or ask us for something or, oh, so desperately beg for our help in some way. And they'll probably even make it worth our while. Yeah, Melinora's a little cranky.
More cranky. A little more cranky.
Tick-Tick's a firm believer in
In
not
the crank.
stealing unless you absolutely have to. So he's a little offended.
Especially if you can fit it in your pockets.
Right. Yeah.
Well, only if it's really important, like a ring to get you to safety.
He's keeping it safe. He's not taking.
No.
It's important to keep things safe.
Indeed.
Yeah. And you have to pay for a lot of things because that's the way of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Especially if you can pay with other people's money.
Yes.
So we wait until morning and see how they're going to address our concerns.
I think
If
that's. Go
Are we
ahead.
in agreement here? Or,
I don't like it, but yeah.
well, none of us like it.
Basically, if something bad has happened, it's already happened. So we might as well see how it plays out.
Yeah. Hopefully they won't get our ship torched by going all the way over to Halterwood only to bump into that red dragon we saw.
I don't think that even the Qualinesti are quite that stupid, but who knows?
Or the giant octopus, or the storm. There's
Or
many
the extra
things.
sharks, yes.
Yes.
So,
Well then.
yeah.
So you're going to spend the evening there?
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
so it's...
Mm.
The night of your captivity is passing without incident. At one point, you hear outside your door the changing of the guards, and the new guards chat for some time, and then their conversation drifts off into silence. A few minutes later, a rope of woven bark drops down through the smoke hole. And you hear, "All right, everybody out." And it's a familiar voice from Scamus.
Malachite doesn't hesitate. Grabs on the rope, tugs on it, making sure it's secure. Hand over hand. Climbs on up.
Addie offers Tick a boost, unless he and Melinora are gonna take the broom.
Tick can climb up automatically without any problem because he has.
Damn awesome at rope climbing. In fact, on his way up, he will do some crazy little
spinning around in the air.
Yeah,
And like flips upside down.
Cirque du Soleil style rope trick.
Climbs the rest of the way upside down.
Everybody else make it. If you're climbing the rope, just make a dex check.
Broom.
Dex check.
I know better than broom.
You have to kind of go like this, but
That's fine.
yeah, you got up there.
Yeah. 3. I'll take it.
I got an 8 out of
Easy.
11.
You're fine.
Doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo.
All right, so you get up. Go ahead.
But just incidentally, I am leaving the sound bubble up inside so that nobody will realize that we're gone until they actually come to look.
Perfect.
Ooh,
All right, so you all make it to the roof, and you see Scamus is there up on the roof, but you also see and like Scamus is helping up, but there's also an elven woman who is there helping you up as well. She's a pretty strong, muscular, elvish woman, and I'll send you the photo directly from the module, but I'll describe her to those who are listening here. And I put it in the Facebook Messenger, but she's got sort of a darker skin tone, camouflage painted on her face. She's got feathers coming down from her hair, and let's see here.
Cool.
So sort of a really like a silver. Her hair is silver. Her clothing is reds and oranges, although it looks like it's maybe been blackened by soot a little bit to kind of hide her. She's got a headband on as well, a red headband, tasseled boots, leather boots, and she's sort of helping to pull you all up. And Scamus says, "Quickly, we must be very quiet." And he kind of like crouches down on the roof where you're all kind of standing there precariously, and she says, "The guards have been temporarily incapacitated." And he smiles. He says, "You'll find that my friend Silvara has lots of things which might come in handy on our journey." He nods to the woman that's with him. He says, "It is good to meet you."
It is also good
Nod
to
at
meet
her.
you. Mhm.
Yeah.
Sorry
He
to
says,
complain, but how are we
if it-
getting down?
He says, "The same rope we got up with." And he pulls the rope up. And he says, "You don't intend on leaving without the horses, right?"
So
Says, if it isn't clear, I'm heading out. He says, I've been working on getting a hold of a map. I'm not going to get involved in a dispute between elves here. Elves killing elves. A war within a war. He says, my intention is to head north, where I've been able to deduce that a Solamnic camp has been set up in a town to the north. This is my intention, is to travel north through the forest, across the mountains, and eventually get there, ultimately making my way to Senchrist to connect with the Knights of Solamnia. If this armor is going to be used to build weapons, it's going to be used to build weapons to fight against the dragon armies, not to fight against other elves. Because I don't believe that Reorx brought me back to do this. He kind of looks at, like, disgust as he kind of waves his hand, like, while he's laying down. You can see, like, a couple of, like, elven warriors walking through. You know, they have, like, swords at their side, which are probably, like, forged by Scamus, who was a really expert craftsman.
And by all means, let's discuss this in more detail at a greater distance.
This song is all by the by. Sorry.
So Mission Impossible would be good too, right?
Ooh, thank you for reminding me. Addie will touch the bead in the middle of her armor, and then she stops clanking.
Oh, right.
Because of the silence effect.
Mhm.
Yep. Does it
She-
affect...
You can. It does not. It only is from your head down. So, don't land on your head.
Yeah.
Tighten your helmet.
Addie's like, oh, now my armor's silent. I'm ready to go. Pushes down the faceplate, and it's like,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Addie.
No, Addie's actually quite wise too. So, if I'm not mistaken, I think Addie has a wisdom of like 13, 14, somewhere in there, right?
She ended up with a wisdom of 16 because of all
16.
the shenanigans in Castle Amber.
Okay, even better.
Yeah.
Castle Amber's so wacky.
God, yes.
Good times. So the Skamus says, I know where your horses are being held, but I'm afraid that it'll take a little bit of work. Got a couple of guards we're going to need to take care of. Keeping the horses quiet is another matter entirely. This is first, let's make our escape from here. As I've managed to get a rope, pull you out of this thing. This is, but you're the ones with the magic. So, get us out of here quietly.
Malachite, is there a way that we can no, wait. Tick, you have that sash where you can talk to animals, right?
Nice.
Yes.
Maybe we can ask the horses to try to be as quiet as possible?
Why don't you just look at your horses and go?
I can signal to Cedric just fine. I think I can communicate that he should be quiet, but I don't know if he can tell the others to be quiet.
Well, you know, I don't think our horses actually really like each other that much, so I don't think they're going to be having a full-on conversation. I say that because, you know, Zatol is just giant, and, you know, I think there's some issues with, I don't know. If you need me to talk to a horse to tell it to be quiet, that's fine, but clearly you don't know horses because they have attitude.
Well, I've been helping take care of them on my holy days and every day when we were traveling. But it's okay. We'll figure it out.
No,
Where's the horses?
It's fine.
I hope Cedric's okay.
I'll use the sash to talk to the
Skamus
horses.
says, Addie,
Mhm.
we still have to get down from here quietly before we can get to the horses.
I was gonna say, we're still on the roof, aren't we?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's
Okay.
start climbing down off the roof into the darkest.
It'd probably be a good idea
Corner.
not to be noticed either.
Yeah.
Tic, how many times can you do invisibility? Okay, so you've got you covered. I believe Addie has a ring. I've got me covered, and I can cover Malachite, but I think you've got that chameleon thing as well, right?
I do, but it's more for like blending in with people. Like
Gotcha. Then
No, it's not. I mean, you can hide. It blends in with everything. It's just that when you're amongst people, or you move by people, and you're in a public setting, or like if you let's say you walk across an open space,
mhm.
it convinces people that
That
they're
you're supposed
seeing
to-
what they're expecting in terms of like another person.
Okay.
But it does
Right.
camouflage you like predator style almost. That's
Gotcha.
kind of how it
okay.
works. Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
like, but I know it's only a 90% camouflage, I believe, or something like that. But that's kind of what the predator was. You could see the predator.
Right.
You know, it's like that.
Well, it was like if something I typed it out here, but yeah, it was like if you are looking like somebody else in the group, whatever, and their intelligence is above 4, then they have like a 5% chance.
And it
Or
goes up like
sound of
every round
seeing
or
you
something. Yeah.
like it. Yeah.
Yeah, but like for the most part, like if you like across an area, that means they'll have like 5% chance, and then you're like
Mhm.
back into a hidden, like almost
Right,
nearly
right.
invisible
Mhm.
form. You know,
Right.
Right.
the end result is I can make myself and one other person invisible. That person can be either Malachite or Skamus.
Skamus
Oh.
says, "Don't worry about me," and Silvara says, "I am fine too. I can take care of myself. No
Assume so.
one pays any attention to the servants." And in fact, you do see a couple of like wild elves are just like moving around, and the guards are paying them no mind.
Okay. Yeah, then I'll save my ring for a little bit later then when we're amongst people.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I pop myself and Malachite invisible.
So Addie is not invisible.
Addie's got the ring, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And Tick, you're gonna do invisibility as well. You should keep track of your spells, remember, because I'm not doing that anymore.
Mhm.
Okay. Skamus says, "I'll assume that you're following me." Silvara has a tendency to disappear right before your eyes, but trust me when I say that she's around as well. She kind of smiles. And Skamus throws the rope over the edge into the darkness, like sort of behind the dome, I guess you might say. And he says, "No time like the present," and he smiles and begins climb down. Silvara's like down like that, down the rope.
Broom.
Yeah, you just fly down.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you're climbing down the rope, just make a dex check other than Tick.
Okay. So dex check.
I guess I'm on the broom.
Oh,
as
did you
well.
fail?
No. Oh no.
I got
Oh.
a 12 out of 11.
Oh, okay,
I
that's
missed by
fine.
1.
All right, so you do fall, and you take 2 points of damage for falling.
Got it.
The
You get some like rope burn on your hands, and you're otherwise. you're
you
fine.
fall a bit. You take 2 points of damage, but you actually are
Gotcha.
silent. You didn't. If you would have critically failed, I would have made you fall on your head and make a clanking noise. But you don't. The loudest noise you make is like, ugh. Yeah, maybe some of you hear that. So you kind of watch Scamus, and he's right. Silvara almost disappears right away. Like she doesn't disappear, but she blends in just so well that she just kind of moves off into the forest. Scamus seems to have an eye on her though, and he carefully moves from building to building. Like he seems to know the guard pattern really, really well, as though he has been studying the guard pattern for quite some time. And he goes from place to place to place, leading you through the camp. And you kind of get a little bit more out of like the main area, you might say. It's definitely more sparsely populated out in the outskirts. In fact, like you can see that there are a couple of there's a couple of smaller camps. You might even consider it to be a sort of on the outside of Qualimori, the town, or the city. You're kind of on the outskirts of that area, and there are actually some of the refugees that you helped are they've kind of have set up camps, you know what I mean? There's tents and stuff, they're kind of living at the outskirts until they build them homes, those who don't have family already here, sort of independent people. But there are a few constructions here, including what you would call a stables, I guess you might say. Anybody familiar with Dragonlance lore enough to say whether or not elves would keep horses?
My understanding is that elves have their own special breed of elven horses and elven hounds.
Okay, let's go with that then. That sounds great. So they do have a stable master and grooms, and it's a pretty well appointed stable, but it's really more of an area, it's less of a construction than the building you were in or the dome, it's more to keep the horses in, but they don't need guards to keep the horses in. The guards aren't going to the horse aren't going to independently try to escape. So you suburbs or the ghetto. But there are as you're approaching, Scamus stops, and you can see Scamus stops, and then you suddenly notice that Silvara is there. And they're kind of amongst the little copse of trees there, and they're where you can see the stables, but it's kind of hidden. You can kind of look through the leaves and stuff and see it. And he doesn't know where any of you all are, so he's kind of just he's looking around. He's like, psst, psst. Companions. Psst.
Sort of gently tap him.
Yeah. Addie's gonna try to get close and just touch his shoulder.
He says, "There's rarely somebody who isn't awake, a groom, somebody to take care of the horses. A couple of them actually sleep in the stables as well, have their own quarters there. You have to be especially careful." He says, "I've had little reason to spend time in the stables. I was allowed in once. I'm observant in a way, but I don't understand you big folk and your reliance on these massive beasts to get you around when two sturdy legs will get you there just as well. So I don't understand the nature of what's inside. You're on your own in getting these horses out. This says, but expect a stable boy or two to have to deal with." And he says, "And look, don't any of you get ahead of yourselves. I might have some issues with these Qualinesti, but that doesn't mean that we should go rushing in, chopping off a head before they even know it.
Scamus can't see it, but Addie gets that 1,000-yard stare and just...
It only happened one time, and she still hasn't forgiven herself. So, good to see you're still judgmental as ever. I missed you, my friend.
If she hasn't forgiven herself, then that means that she has the kind of conscience that makes her a worthwhile companion.
Please just get the horses. Please.
He says, well, I'm not going to navigate these beasts. You're the horsewoman, he says in your vague general direction.
But a Solamnic Knight marching in there trying to get them out is most likely not going to work.
No, we can either go in stealthily, invisibly, and just sort of walk the horses out real slowly. Put whoever is awake to sleep. Some kind
But
of
I
sleep
also
spell.
feel like the one of us who could just walk in there and pretend that she's supposed to be there and better than everyone else is Melinora.
Malachite, they're elves. We can't put them to sleep.
Oh, yeah.
Not unless it's manually, and that's very slippery slope. Melinora, you were able to disguise yourself as a servant girl when we were infiltrating Hearthkeep. Could you do it again? I mean, not a servant girl, obviously, but...
I could disguise myself as one of these, certainly, but that still doesn't give me a justification for stealing the mounts of the supposedly honored guests.
Shit. Howard is
Silvara
having-
says, getting in would not be hard. We can go right in. I can walk right in, no problem. But once there, I'll need a reason. And if you are going to disguise yourself, you too would need a reason.
Exactly. As far as that goes, you're quite right. Getting in isn't a problem. We can, as you said, walk right in. Are either of you planning on ever coming back here?
Amos shakes his head and she says, no, my people are subjugated here. I have no intention of staying.
So it wouldn't especially bother you if, as you said, we don't want to hurt anyone, but it wouldn't especially bother you if this building didn't survive the experience.
Are we gonna set fire to the stables? How many horses are in here?
This is such a plan, but you guys wouldn't.
Probably, I would venture to say making that much of a scene may not be in our favor.
What? Oh, wait.
We'll start screaming fire.
I do always have audible glamour, which I love using.
Mm-hmm.
What could be in these? Oh, a hill giant. I could mimic. Is that something that's been around? Scamus, what's been over here that's been scaring them recently?
He says they've cleared out most of the humanoid beasts in this local area, but haven't gone too far out. Humanoids have been spotted, even draconians.
But are there
This is-
whispers of a dragon nearby?
Oh, yes. He says there's the constant concern of the white dragons that come out of Daltagoth.
Could use the chameleon ring and tend to be one of the servants as well, and we could be moving the horses to another location for safety.
It's not a bad idea, especially if one of the guards had understood that our honored guests were less than pleased with the requisitioning of their ship, and as a result, the mounts needed to be moved to prevent any unexpected departure.
Exactly.
That could work.
Okay.
Without
So
lighting the
no
building on fire.
dragon screaming?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Yeah.
You sure?
That's
Unless
better than-
absolutely necessary.
Save
We-
that
we
for
have-
Plan B.
Wait, it might be
Here.
absolutely necessary, but okay, I'll wait a little while. This
yeah,
long.
that's a much better idea than the one I just had. So
Okay.
What was your idea?
Now we're this long.
mine was going to be surprise inspection. You get the stable boys out, give them a dressing down, and then marching in to inspect the horses. But that wouldn't. Well, it entirely depends on the creativity of whoever's dressing them down. But yeah, the horses being moved to prevent us from getting the horses sounds like a really good idea.
So Malachite looks at Scamus, and what's the woman's name that's with him?
Silvara.
Silvara.
Savara and suggests that she should take lead on speaking to them, but that I will be a blended, like I will look like one of the help as well, wearing this ring, but then I'll just help them move the horses out, since she's familiar with them.
She says, it would be unusual for one such as myself, one of the Kagonesti people, to be entrusted with such a task without one of the Qualinesti elves being present.
That's not a problem. I can tolerate being Qualinesti for a few minutes.
Later that night, Melinora in a hot shower.
Unclean. Unclean.
Get a Brillo pad. Just scrub it all off. Out damn spot.
I guess fireball centered on myself.
So I guess we'll have
I keep washing my hands, but it won't come off.
So if you two are in,
so Addie and Tick Tick will stay outside, but be ready to pounce if we need you to.
right.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
I'm great at pouncing
Great.
Yeah.
and tumbling and swinging,
Hmm.
diving, and skipping. I'm quite good at skipping too.
Indeed.
Should, Scamus
yes.
should not go with us because he would be recognized, right? Okay.
Right.
So
We do, however, we need somewhere to tell them that we're taking the horses. I'm sure they'll ask.
right. So
Um,
Scamus, is there an appropriate place that would make sense? A building that we would be taking these to?
Or would it be better
Yeah,
to just
he's-
send us out to the woods?
He says, yes, if you indicate that these will be taken to the south of the village, it will make sense.
All right, then.
That area is more refined, and it would make sense that the horses might be relocated there. This is on the edge of the elven controlled lands. And he says the more show horses, those horses that are not meant for riding through the woods and going on expeditions, are kept there.
Right. Right then.
It's a plan.
Is a plan.
Okay, so who's going in? So
Malachite, myself, and
Okay.
Melinora
And Silvara.
and Silvara.
The two of you will do the work, and I'll supervise like the guard that I am.
yeah. Addie digs around in her pack and pulls out a green rag. She just sort of winces a little and wipes her face on it.
Mm-hmm.
Have Cedric sniff this. He's not going to recognize you if you're disguised, I don't think. Well, but have him sniff this, and he
Malachite
should
grabs
hopefully.
it.
Yeah.
Tick Tick, could Malachite borrow your sash just in case he needs to calm the horses verbally? Tick Tick is muted.
Oops, of course, absolutely. He's my friend. He can borrow it. And he can say good, encouraging things to our horses because they need encouragement.
Indeed.
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 Okay. So I'm going to make sure that I'm like in an area that's not going to be obvious when I stop being invisible, because duh.
I mean, in the copse of trees that you are right now is fine. Like,
Gotcha.
You can easily appear.
Cool. Then I will poke Addie real viciously in the ribs to attack her, so to break my invisibility.
Actually, she would sway a little bit, looks somewhat surprised, and then go, okay.
Like, ooh.
What the heck?
I mean, you can
Oh,
just
there you
break
are.
your invisibility, but I like that you did it by hitting Addie.
I mean, come on, what's Addie for?
It doesn't make any noise when you do it.
Yeah, well, I do good work.
Yeah.
All right.
And then I will do alter self to be a moderately high-ranking Qualinesti guard.
And Malachite puts on the chameleon ring.
So you're like a Qualinesti sergeant, we'll say.
Yeah.
Malachite, you put on the chameleon ring. Silvara is there, and you're trying to blend in as a servant, essentially,
As a
right,
servant.
Malachite?
Right.
So you're kind of standing a little bit back, basically.
Mhm.
All right. So
Exactly.
how are you approaching then? So there's like essentially like a door that leads into the stables. It's a little non-traditional in terms of what a stable is, but just functionally it's all the same. There's like a main sort of big double doors that kind of like open up, but it's more like it's less of a door as it is like, well, it's doors, but it's, all constructed out of like natural and fallen elements and things like that. And
Right.
then there are more like cleverly formed alcoves and spaces for each of the horses that are wood shaped and buffeted by bushes and things like that. So it's a construction, but it's also like it's not like wood and metal, like boards and metal. So you approach the front doors, and as you're approaching the doors, you can actually see one of them. Actually, kind of like as you're nearing one of the doors is pulled open, and it kind of opens out, or it's pushed out the door, and several. You see an elven groom, a man.
The Kagonesti or Qualinesti?
He's Qualinesti, actually. He's Qualinesti, and he orders inside, and you see a Kagonesti woman, like with a big kind of stack of empty buckets, of like empty water buckets, and she goes and is kind of like walking him out, and he's saying something to her like, go refill these, prepare for the morning, this and that kind of stuff.
Then I walk right up to the front door like I belong there. I'm not. I'm being quiet, but not being stealthy, if that makes sense. I mean, like, I have every right to be here. I am being quiet in deference for the lateness of the hour, but I am not attempting to be sneaky in any way.
Okay.
Yeah. And I pull the door all the way open. Groom.
Okay, yeah, he looks up at you and in Qualinesti says, "Sir, is there something that I can help you with?" And gives you like a bow. His head is down, like he's not even looking at you. You're in no danger of being discovered right now, Malachite. Like his eyes are downcast.
Right.
We have orders to move the visitors' horses. They might be considering an unauthorized exodus. We're moving them to the south of the village. You two, tack up those horses. We're moving them out.
Then Malachite just says, which
this
horses are they?
That
Very
one, that
unusual.
one, that one, that one, that one. He points out,
Yeah, you see
Okay.
Oh.
them, and there's some other magnificent horses in there as well.
if there happens to be a Kagonesti that's not obviously being tasked with something else, you help with the tacking up.
He also says that because we wouldn't recognize them.
Right. Yeah. Those.
Oh yeah.
All right,
of course.
Melinora, make a charisma check +4.
Oh, crap.
+4 bonus.
Oh, with +4 bonus. That's good. That's very good. Yes, that's very good. Yes. Yes.
Did you get a 13 out of 14 or something?
No, we want high in this, right?
No, we want low.
Oh boy. Well,
We
then
need, like, a nat
possibly
one.
not.
I mean, I have a high charisma.
But with the +4,
Second
that
point.
still might. So
Mhm.
7?
What, you rolled a 7?
No, I rolled an 11, but with a +4.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah, what's your charisma?
What's your
normally?
My charisma is 10. Yay.
Yeah, so you're 14
I'm
then
good,
is
yeah.
your target number.
Yep.
And if you rolled an 11, you're fine.
That's how you're doing the +4. Gotcha.
I mean,
Right.
you can do it either way. You can
Mhm.
add +4 to your
Well,
I say +4, like you add +4 to your stat,
Gotcha.
right?
Mhm.
But it
Okay,
could
that
be
makes sense,
-4
yeah,
to the roll.
To the
either
roll.
way.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I came out with a 7 of 10.
Yes. Okay, you're fine. So they hop to it.
Yeah.
And
Come on.
they kind of like get everything ready. They're not like saddling the horses or anything like that.
No,
for
just
me.
pile it on. We don't
Yeah.
need them saddled. Just make sure all the
Yeah.
stuff is on them.
And they help you get all the horses ready. And
Fine. You take these 3. You take those 2. Come on, we're getting out of here. I have other things to be doing.
Malachite's just stacking things and looking for stuff to.
is
Add
is
to
your is your thing per round, Brian? Or is it per like 10 minutes or what is it?
Right. It's 20 turns.
Right, that's the
the whole
total. But
thing.
how often do you
How
need
often,
to
like, somebody,
check?
like,
Let's see here. I can look this up so fast. Ring. This is the Ring of Chameleon Power.
right.
It was aware. Okay. Each turn, you have a cumulative 5% chance, and a turn in AD&D Second Edition is 10 minutes, 10 rounds.
Nice.
Okay.
So every turn, your chance of being discovered is quicker. It takes about 15 minutes to get all the horses taken care of. But you're fine. They don't seem to notice you. Pay you no mind. You're just another member of the crew getting the horses out.
Right.
And eventually, once the job is done,
All right, come on, you two. We're getting out of here. I have other things to be doing tonight. And I lead them out.
Yeah, and the grooms go back to work. And as you're kind of leaving, you see the Qualinesti or the Kagonesti elf who had the buckets just like got her muscles are like bulging with carrying these buckets of water on this, large pole, just like lined up on either side, these heavy buckets of water. All right, so you have the horses. Now what?
We walk a good distance away before we get on them, try and ride, but like we get like out of eyesight of at least that building from where we took it from.
Yeah, we go away from the building in the direction we said we were going.
Right.
And then once we get behind like another building, then yeah.
Yeah, and there are scattered around, there are elven refugees. Like I mentioned, ones that might even recognize you because like they were on your ship.
Mm-hmm.
Do you care to do anything in relation to that?
I'm still
You're
alter self as the guard.
Okay.
Yeah, I still have the ring on.
Stick your chameleon.
And I smell like horse feces. So.
All right, so the group of the four of you.
And surely our invisible people will know to follow us.
Yes. Your mounts, Scamus and Solvara, ultimately you head north of Qualamori and head out of town and make your way outside of the occupied area. Now, there will certainly be elves to be concerned with for a bit, but you kind of feel your stress relief. Stress release a little bit as you recognize that you're kind of out of captivity. And once you get a little bit outside, maybe you read for an hour, let's say, ride for like an hour out of the village, out of the town area. And Scamus says, all right, let's take a minute here and look at the map. And he unfurls the map before you. And as you pore over the map, deciding your next destination, we'll end the session there. So it's exactly been about 2 hours. So that is the first session of this. And thank you guys for buying into the module. We'll talk about when we want to play next, but I'd like to keep this as sort of a regular thing. It actually worked out okay. We had a late start, but I think it worked out okay.
Yeah.
So we'll discuss it offline here on when we want to play next. But I realized the last time I gave you guys XP was December 22nd of 2021. So it's been over a year since the last time we played.
What?
But,
no way.
Yes,
Where
but
the hell did that year go?
The thing I do love about that, though, is it means the campaign doesn't necessarily die. A year break, and we came back to it. So that's pretty good.
True.
So thanks you guys for playing. It was really fun to get back together, and we'll be back very soon. For those who are watching, listening, we'll be back very soon with session 2 of Dragons of Light. Thank you for joining us, y'all. And I will talk to all of you online and very soon.
Squeeze.
Hey, look! Celebratory thing in the corner of Gretchen's window. So it's gone now. Make it go again, Gretch. How'd you do that? There it is.
Yay!
Huzzah!
Huzzah!
All right. Good night, you all. We'll